The moment the glass model shattered, the entire office floor went silent, and so did Ariba Katri's heart. The echo of the crash lingered in the sleek, sunlit studio, but what followed was even louder, the sound of a life being unfairly torn apart. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden strength in ordinary people, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Story House. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them. It was a bright weekday morning, sunlight streaming through the tall windows of Zenith Creations, one of the most prestigious design firms in the city. Employees moved briskly, laptops open, coffee cups in hand, all chasing deadlines and perfection. At the center of it all was Ariba Katri, the CEO, sharp, disciplined, and known for her zero-tolerance policy when it came to mistakes. That morning, she had been preparing for the biggest presentation of her career. A revolutionary design concept sat delicately on a glass pedestal in the center of the studio, a model that represented months of sleepless nights, strategic planning, and her reputation on the line. Investors were arriving in less than an hour. Across the room, quietly pushing his cleaning cart, was Samir Qureshi, a single father who worked as the office janitor. He was a man people barely noticed, always present but invisible, moving silently between desks, wiping surfaces, emptying bins. His clothes were simple, his posture humble, and his eyes often tired, but there was a quiet intelligence behind them. Samir's life revolved around his 7-year-old daughter, Mehak. Every morning, he dropped her at school before rushing to work. Every evening, he returned home to help with homework, cook dinner, and tuck her into bed with stories. His world was small, but it was filled with purpose. That morning, as Samir cleaned near the central display, he paused. The design model caught his attention. It was intricate but flawed, at least, to his eyes. Years ago, before life had taken a harsh turn, Samir had studied architecture. Financial struggles and family responsibilities had forced him to drop out, but his passion for design had never truly faded. He leaned in slightly, examining the structure. Something about the balance seemed off. The support base didn't align with the upper curvature. It was subtle, but it could cause instability. Without thinking, guided purely by instinct, Samir gently reached out to adjust a small component, just a slight correction, something he believed could improve the structure's integrity. And then it happened. A slight miscalculation. A fraction too much pressure. The model trembled, and collapsed. The sound of shattering glass cut through the air like a blade. Ariba turned instantly, her eyes locking onto the scene. Her expression shifted from shock to fury in seconds. Employees froze, watching as she stormed across the room. Samir stepped back, his face pale, hands trembling. He tried to speak, to explain, but the words wouldn't come. Ariba didn't wait. In a voice cold and sharp enough to silence the entire floor, she demanded to know what he had done. Samir stammered, attempting to explain that he only meant to fix a small structural issue, that he had experience, that he saw something wrong, but to Ariba, it sounded like excuses. Her mind was racing. The presentation. The investors. Her reputation. Everything felt like it was slipping away. And in that moment of pressure and panic, she made a decision she would regret within minutes. She fired him. Right there. In front of everyone. Samir didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He simply nodded slowly, his eyes filled with a quiet pain that no one seemed to notice. He picked up his worn-out bag from the corner, took one last look at the shattered model, and walked toward the exit. The office remained silent as he left. 5 minutes later, everything changed. Ariba stood over the broken pieces, her mind trying to find a solution. The design team rushed to salvage what they could, but it was clear, the model couldn't be rebuilt in time. Panic began to creep in. One of her senior designers, Faraz, hesitated before speaking. He mentioned something unusual, that the janitor, Samir, had once corrected a minor flaw in a prototype weeks ago. At the time, no one had taken it seriously, but when they checked, he had been right. Another employee recalled seeing Samir sketching quietly during his break. Curious, they had glanced at his notebook. The drawings weren't random, they were precise, detailed, and professional. Ariba's frustration turned into confusion. On impulse, she picked up the broken base of the model and looked closely. And then she saw it, the flaw Samir had tried to fix. A structural imbalance. It wasn't obvious, but once noticed, it couldn't be ignored. Her breath caught. She realized something that sent a chill down her spine. He hadn't broken the model out of carelessness. He had been trying to fix a mistake her entire team had missed. And now, not only was the model destroyed, but the only person who truly understood its flaw had just been fired. Ariba didn't hesitate. She rushed out of the building, scanning the street until she spotted Samir walking slowly down the sidewalk, his shoulders slightly hunched, as if carrying the weight of the world. She called out to him. He stopped but didn't turn immediately. When he finally faced her, his expression was calm, but distant. For the first time in years, Ariba Khatri felt something unfamiliar. Regret. She approached him, her usual confidence replaced with urgency. She admitted she had been wrong. She told him she now understood what he had tried to do. She asked him, no, she begged him, to come back. Samir listened quietly. For a moment, it seemed like he might refuse. After all, he had been humiliated, dismissed without a chance to explain, treated as if his voice didn't matter. But then he thought of Mehak. Her school fees. Their small home. Their fragile stability. He nodded. Back inside the office, the atmosphere shifted. The same people who had ignored him earlier now watched him with curiosity and respect. Samir didn't waste time. He carefully examined the broken model, then asked for basic materials, cardboard, glue, and a few tools. Within minutes, his hands moved with precision and confidence. What took the design team months to conceptualize, he began to reconstruct, not just replicating it, but improving it. Adjusting angles. Reinforcing weak points. Simplifying complex elements without losing elegance. The room watched in stunned silence. Ariba stood nearby, realizing that talent doesn't always wear a suit or sit in a corner office. Sometimes, it pushes a cleaning cart. By the time the investors arrived, a new model stood proudly on the pedestal. It wasn't just fixed, it was better. The presentation was a success. More than a success. It was a breakthrough. Later that evening, as the office slowly emptied, Ariba called Samir into her office. But this time, there was no authority in her tone, only respect. She offered him a position, not as a janitor, but as a junior design consultant. It wasn't charity. It was recognition. Samir hesitated at first, unsure if he belonged in that world anymore. But Ariba assured him that his work spoke louder than any resume. He accepted. In the weeks that followed, Samir's life began to change. He still worked hard, still stayed humble, but now he was seen. His ideas were valued. His voice mattered. And every evening, when he returned home, he told Mehak stories, not of struggle, but of hope. Stories of how one moment, no matter how painful, can lead to something greater. Stories of how being underestimated doesn't define you. Stories of how kindness, when given a second chance, can transform lives. Before we reach the end, if this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to comment below and share your thoughts. Your voice matters more than you think. And here's a special request. Comment, second chances matter, if you believe people deserve to be seen for who they truly are, not just how they appear. In the end, Ariba learned something no business school had ever taught her, that leadership isn't just about making decisions, but about recognizing humanity. And Samir proved something even more powerful, that no matter how invisible the world tries to make you, your worth doesn't disappear. Sometimes, it just waits for the right moment to be seen. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Stories. Stories like these remind us that behind every ordinary face, there might be an extraordinary story waiting to be discovered.